Hi guys, welcome back. This is Matt Chat, episode 565, featuring an interview with one of my favorite adventure game designers of all time, Jensen. Now, if that name is familiar to you, I assume you grew up playing the Gabriel Knight series, which is one of my absolute favorite graphical adventure game series. So, of course, we're talking about that, as well as a talk of an unreleased Gabriel Knight pitch that was set in Salzburg. So we'll get into a little bit about the future and some of the possibilities of alternate realities, if you will, of the Gabriel Knight series. We also talk about Jane's writing career, many novels, her work with dream interpretation, real life Schottengagering, adventure game development, licensing, Kickstarters, artwork, AI, and much more. So that's an absolutely riveting interview, as I'm sure you will agree. So without further ado, here is Jensen.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Sorry about that this morning. I was like, I don't know
Wow.
why I didn't get it on my calendar, but
Oh, it happens all the time. I'm usually the one that gets mixed up with the time zones and all that. But just admiring your background there. You
you
say
know,
you're prolific, but you don't really. That doesn't sink in until you see something like that. All those books laid out there. Wow.
yeah, the old stuff is up at the top, but some GK stuff up there.
Yeah, I was looking at your website here with the books.
Eli
You're,
Easton.
yeah. Is it
Hmm.
Eli or pronouncing it
Yeah.
right? Eli Easton. That's quite a good pen name. So he's got about what, 20 of these?
That's just the front page. I've written over 50.
Oh, this one's timely. The Curse Before
Yeah,
Christmas.
that just came out. That was the most recent one.
Looks like you have a lot of fun writing these.
It has been fun, yeah.
The Curse Before Christmas. Yeah, we got so many. I told people I was interviewing you, and I got sort of flooded with questions and
Oh, jeez.
about all those sorts of things. I'm not really sure where you'd like to start. I was kind of interested in the some of the stuff you talked about with Matt Bradley Shergy about the Schattenjäger or Shadow Hunter work, and that sounded like that might be
Yeah, we should definitely
like
get into
okay,
that.
that piqued my interest. I've played a lot. I've played the Gabriel Knight series. That's one of my favorites of
Oh, good. Yeah.
game
Um,
series. But yeah,
Yeah, that's the Eli Easton is sort of like I started that in 2012, and I mean I'm still doing it, but I'm sort of onto something totally different now. Seems like every 10 years or so I just completely change direction. And
is that reinvention? You get kind of is it you get bored doing it and you want something new, or is it just you kind of want to branch out, try?
I think so. It's just like okay, I'm done with that. I get passionate about something and then really obsess on it and get into it, and then after a while it's like okay, I've done that now. It's to do something else. So yeah, there's been I'm doing dream interpretation now, which I started a new thing doing that, and then all the like metaphysical stuff and paranormal stuff been getting into. We can
So
talk
the
about it.
dream interpretation, is that kind of like a Freudian or psychoanalysis type of approach, or are you more
No,
yeah, what's that
it's
like?
really I should have that book here, but the guy that I learned it from, Michael Sheridan, he's been doing it for over 30 years. He used to have a radio show in Ireland. Well, maybe we can get into all this when we talk about it, but he takes more of a spiritual approach. Like he's a big channel. He channels and part of his process is that you need to channel. So first you learn how to channel
Hmm.
and then you can do dreams, but it's sort of a two-step approach. There's like he has a dictionary of like standard icons and what they mean in dreams.
Hmm.
But that always can be different for each person, right? It doesn't necessarily, just because you dream about a train doesn't mean that it has the same meaning for your dream as it does for everybody else. So, and then there's lots and lots of stuff in dreams that don't really relate to a dream dictionary. So,
Yeah, that's a tradition that goes back at least to biblical times, right? Was it Moses? Who was it that was interpreting like Pharaoh's dreams?
analytical point of method of doing it, but it's amazing. I mean, the stuff that I get is stuff I could never come up with on my own. So it's pretty cool.
I think you might have cut out there for a second, but you were saying that you had uncovered some pretty cool stuff doing this. I'd like to
Yeah,
love
it's
to
kind
hear
of
about
like
that.
a school for Schottenjägers. Yeah, we can get into that.
Well, go ahead. I
Well,
like
you
the
want to talk about it now? Are we on?
yeah,
Are you recording?
yeah, we don't really have a set template or anything for these. I just like to get into topics that are interesting. We can cover everything eventually.
Okay.
But now you lead.
Okay. So before we get into that, so you're a professor? Is that what Matt said?
Yeah, I'm an
You
English
tell me,
professor at St. Cloud State.
is that Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was looking at some of your biographical notes, and I guess you were living in Pennsylvania at some point on a farm.
Yeah.
Are you still doing the farm? You might have moved.
No, uh, we left the farm about 2020. We moved back to Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
So we were
so
there about
in terms of
8 years, I think. It was really great, but we missed, our family and everybody that's sort of over here.
oh, sure. Yeah, it was one of the reasons I like the Gabriel Knight is I'm from Louisiana. There's a lot of references to stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that's know all about that.
Yeah,
New Orleans.
that's a great area.
Anne Rice, I think, comes from around there.
Yeah, she was definitely my inspiration for getting interested in that whole area in the first place in New Orleans.
Did you ever get to meet her?
Mm-mm.
What about Dan Brown? I kind of wondered if you might be a fan of his or
Um, I,
Da Vinci Code.
when I was in high school in like the 80s, I guess I graduated high school in 1980, so it was actually the 70s. But that was the era where everything was horror books. Stephen King had just broken; he was huge, and all the books had those black shiny covers, and they were just like everybody was writing horror, and I got really into it. Um, so I did read some Dan Brown around then, but I never really followed him after that.
Yeah, just for whatever
These books
reason.
were always so huge, they were always really, really dense tomes of.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of your style too, though, right? You like to
I
dig
know,
deep
that's
into
true.
the research, and I mean, it's the most amazing thing when you're playing these games, and you're like, "Wow, that's real!" This is all based on actual, it's not fictional. Which, yeah, but we were watching that Da Vinci Code, and I kept thinking about like the Gabriel Knight series and like the Knights Templar, and it's just, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
endlessly fascinating. I could just, spend the rest of my life studying that stuff, and there's always
it
something fun.
is. It is. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's really too bad the Gabriel Knight series didn't continue because there's just an endless supply of amazing things like that to cover. But I'm discovering that that stuff isn't as fictional as I thought.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of looking over your shoulder at some point, right? Doing this research, like, somebody going to come knocking on my door. I'm like, no, you can't put that in your game. So,
I have had that thought when I was working on Dante's Equation, especially, and actually, so Millennium Rising is a book I wrote about sort of apocalyptic events, and in the book they're manufactured, and interestingly, they're kind of psyops. And I had an FBI guy contact me after that book was published, and he's like, "This is totally how somebody would do it." And he was teaching a class based on that book,
Wow.
like how somebody would actually do a psyops like this. So,
Yeah, let's look at the audiobook version.
you know,
I guess there's
the
a white paperback.
the actual book is out of print, and I actually do have an ebook version of it that I put together, and I just never put it out there. I really need to do that because I have the rights back, so I can just publish it myself.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think
Yeah, I should do that.
that's one
So
of
I
the issues with
think,
the Gabriel Knight series, right? Is the licensing and who's got the rights. Did that ever
yeah,
get
Gabriel
sorted?
Knight. So that's Microsoft has the licensing now, and we were really hoping that after Microsoft got it just a couple years ago, that we'd have an opportunity to finally do something with it because Activision was just not going to do anything. And we met Ken it was like this was not last summer, but the summer before. And he was like, "Oh yeah, they're totally open to giving licenses." And he gave me the contact information for the guy to contact at Microsoft. And I think they had just given the Laura Bow license to somebody. And so we had a little team. We put a pitch together that was really great. I had a brand new story idea for it for GK4, which I got downloaded in a dream, actually, the plot. And so I emailed them, no response. Like tried 3 or 4 times, got an industry lawyer to contact them who said, "Oh yeah, I work with Microsoft all the time." Nothing. Met some inside people who were really big in the gaming development. They tried to get information, couldn't get a word. So, and that was the end of it. We never heard a thing back. So I think they changed their mind about those old Sierra licenses, but like do something with them, even if if you do it, that's fine. But like it's hard to see them languish.
Yeah, I wonder if it just got lost in somebody's inbox or something. I mean, surely they could see the potential of, you know,
I think
it's
that's
like a
maybe that's the problem
no-brainer.
that they did see the potential and decided they didn't want to just give those licenses away. But then it's like, okay, then you guys do something. I mean, even if they made a game in-house, it'd be nice to see something done with it.
Well, I think most people watching this would agree with that.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Is
We
there
had a
is
beautiful
there like a
pitch.
campaign we can do? Like this, got to raise some ruckus or something to get this moving or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that kind of thing has much of an impact.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's too bad. We had a really fun story for it too, but
Oh,
well,
you're killing me. We got to make this happen somehow. You know, I've had a lot
yeah.
of developers on, and they run into this problem all the time of like even something that it doesn't matter that they created it and that they had all their basically name is tightly associated with it and all this. They just can't get anywhere with these big companies. Once these studios grab up all the IP in one of these sort of portfolio grabs or whatever you want to
Hey,
call
would you like to share a screenshot that we put together for this?
it. Yeah, let me I can give you the
I could just maybe send it in the chat and you can put it up. Um,
we could do that.
you
Sure.
can edit this out, but
Can
so
also make you the co-host so we could do whatever you like. I think you got more questions about the what's happening with Gabriel Knight than anything else.
yeah, so
Did you send
so how
a
do you want to do that? You
or
can share or I can share.
yeah, you can share it with the little button down there.
All right, so just trying to make sure I don't bring up anything weird.
I know the feeling. I always triple check with
All
as long
right.
as it doesn't have like your address on it or something. It's usually I got a bad habit of holding up packages and things and like, you're showing your address to the world, Matt.
Okay, so here's just some concept art from the pitch that we did.
Oh, wow. That's a neat.
We were
It's
thinking
kind of,
about Salzburg as a location.
I like that
Um,
art style there. Is that the,
yeah,
okay.
it's sort of
Yeah. It's kind of creepy. Yeah.
um,
Look at that. That
very
is,
simplistic, sort of more atmospheric 3D, but I don't think that the actual game was going to be in 3D. I'm trying to think of like, let's see.
it's kind of
So
that.
here we have Gabriel discovering a body, and the name of the I don't know if I should get too much into this, but it was basically about a bunch of serial killings going on in Salzburg, and the victims had their hearts removed. So good, this game is very metaphorical about, of course, Gabriel's heart, and
Hmm.
there's some character sketches.
That's the five hearts. And okay.
Here's a Gabriel image. Character design.
Because you've done a graphic novel pretty recently, right?
Uh, was it really? It's not super recently. It's another character sketch.
Everything seems recent to me. Oh, can you go back to that one you were showing a second ago?
Yeah, it's another
Oh,
concept piece.
this looks really cool.
Doesn't it? So the team that we were working with is was in Israel.
Oh, wow.
Another character sketch.
Jezzy.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
we had a fun pitch for it, but never heard back.
Well, I'll see if I can find somebody. You got to make this. Somebody watching this probably knows somebody. Uh,
Well, we've talked
you
to
should
several
at
people who
least
know
get a
somebody,
meeting. I
but
mean,
yeah.
come on, it's Jane Jensen.
I mean, it's been probably a year since we really hammered on it. So maybe there's something that's moved. But yeah, so the concept for it. So I've had a couple of different ideas for GK4 over the years, but this particular one came to me in a dream. I dreamt the whole thing. I mean, and
That the first time that's happened?
what? No, I've dreamt plots before. Um yeah, it's probably three or four books were based on a dream. So that's always nice when that happens, you know. And what's interesting was I hadn't even, when I had this dream, I hadn't been thinking about Gabriel Knight at all. I hadn't thought about it, for quite some time. And and then I had the dream, and then I got really excited about it, and like got up and wrote the story out, and we just sort of synchronistically got in touch with a team that had been trying to contact us about working together, and ended up putting this whole pitch together. And that wouldn't have happened without that dream, because like I said, I hadn't been thinking about it. So we'll see. I suppose I could
Yeah.
always write the story with some other character and publish it myself, but
Yeah, if this people have the, I've had some people that have taken that approach, and I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I'm trying to think of the person that did that recently. Some well-known character, maybe it was Space Quest or anyway, one of those big, adventure game series, and they'd sort of made their own sort of new character. They had this exact same problem, right, with the licensing and stuff. So I think,
yeah, might have
I
been
don't know.
Crystal
I mean, the
Glory.
fans, I think, are just happy to get a game by their favorite developer, but it'd be even better, if it was with
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, this story is really tied to Gabriel's personality, so it would be hard. I mean, like, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so that's where that's at.
Well, how does somebody had asked about, I thought a pretty good question. I think when I read that name, Sobchak, I guess is the the fan that sent this in. So he was asking if G or Gabriel Knight 4, would you deviate from the past in terms of the design? Or, for example, would you take a well recipe that works or deliver something with a completely different formula? So I guess kind of how different would it be from the previous Gabriel Knights?
Well, I think we would, the gameplay and interface and stuff would be different. We were thinking about in that the pitch that we made of actually having two paths through so that um, we have this whole even in GK1 there was this sort of this dichotomy between do you act like a witch hunter or do you have compassion, and sort of there was two different endings based on that idea. But so we were thinking about really doing that in a much bigger way, like all the way through the game. You can either act like a Von Helsing and have your stake and your hammer and, being trying to slay all these things, or you can like approach it from a more compassionate point of view of like, how do I free these spirits from the dark? And, so, in one thing to offer some replay value and some chance to go through and see what different decisions result in. But so definitely some differences in gameplay, but we didn't get too far into it to be able to really nail that down.
Yeah, it sounds so you're thinking maybe even some kind of combat segments or role playing kind of
I'm not a big fan of combat, but um, maybe more decision points. I don't know that you would actually do the fighting action part, but you can choose to like attack or I don't know. We really didn't get that far.
at
And I would
least an
probably
action.
work, I would probably work with another younger designer to come up with some fresh ideas.
Kind of so some questions about different puzzles too. The Serpent Rouge puzzle. A lot of people are. I think that's probably the hardest nut to crack when you're doing one of these games, right? Just coming up with really good puzzles. But have any of those come to you in a dream?
No, I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
Hmm. So what? Just coming back to this idea of the puzzles. Do you have a? I mean, how do you design these? Is there like, do you have a set approach for designing puzzles, or do they come in after you've got the story, or do you kind of work on the puzzles first, and then the story kind of branches off of that? I mean, how does that work?
Usually when I'm designing a game, I do the story first. Um, and there may be points in the story where it's obvious to me there's a puzzle sequence there or, a puzzle, but I really focus on the story first and then try to figure out how to how to make it interactive and put in puzzles. But,
Hmm.
I mean, the great thing about something like Gabriel Knight is it's ultimately a mystery, detective mystery. And so there are obvious puzzle associations with the kind of work you do as a detective. So
Hmm.
um those are the easy ones. I mean, like, talking to suspects, picking up clues, that's all really obvious. Trying to get the more interesting things in, like Le Serpent Rouge, where it's like another level of puzzle. That's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. That's probably one of the most famous ones, huh? Do you have a favorite puzzle that you've worked on, or is there?
Um, Yeah, there's also one in GK2 where you do a voice splice. Like that was really fun that so you have this recorder in the game so you can record conversations so that you can play it back. And as a player, you're just thinking this is just my notebook, like you may not even ever listen to it. But then the puzzle was that you have to use those recordings to splice together a, a fake voice recording that will get you into someplace. So that was fun.
I
In
was
Gray
thinking,
Matter, there were a lot of puzzles that had to do with sort of riddles, and those were a lot of fun to do.
show
Sort of more iconic, like icon riddles. Get the name of them.
like
Ideograms.
gray matter right there.
Hmm.
Yeah, this was great.
There's some great puzzles in there.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about this game. I cannot for the life of me remember the context of this, but maybe when this first came out, or I was working for a gaming adventure game website. I'm pretty sure I talked to you and maybe somebody else, but
Hmm.
yeah, we were really excited about this. I mean, you might want to do another gray matter.
I could. I have the rights to that, but it's a matter of funding. I mean, as we found out with Kickstarter, um, I think we raised 400 and something thousand for that for Kickstarter, but we ended up promising two games, Mobius, and we ended up doing the GK1 remake. And of course, you can't make two games for that amount of money. So we ended up putting in a lot of our own resources and it just didn't work out financially. So that was the last time I will ever try to do something like a Kickstarter for a game
Yeah.
or
Oh, this
funding our own
Kickstarter
studio.
comes
It's
up.
just like, no. So we would need to have a serious investor to take the financial risk to do something like Gray Matter too.
Yeah, I thought sometimes I think this Kickstarter thing just didn't live up to the potential of the idea was sound, right? Go directly to the fans,
Hmm.
raise the cash, make the game. But I don't think I've had very many people on, even ones that had really big, huge success, with their Kickstarters. They still kind of ambivalent, and I'm like, would you use it? Would you do it again? And they're like, no, it was way too
Yeah.
stressful. Yeah, it's a different kind of relationship with the fans than you would have with the publisher. And they actually kind of like the publisher model better. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Why isn't it better? I mean, what is the problem with it?
Well, I mean, for us, like, when you put yourself out there like that, you really feel that it has to be a successful campaign. And so you end up promising a lot of stuff that is, hard to fulfill. And then, like I said, we didn't really raise enough money. I mean, it takes at least 1 million to do a game. So we really didn't raise enough money, and then we had to have a team that was really hardworking and they're sort of more of an amateur team that was, willing to take what we could pay. They were fans. And so then you get skewered for the quality. Not, it's just like, I don't know. It's just too much. Like if we had raised 2 million in that Kickstarter, then, we could have really launched a studio. But, yeah, and then I felt like when we did that, I really felt responsible for getting the games out that we promised and on time. And since then, only a lot of Kickstarters, they will not meet their deadline and might get the game out 5 years later, and people don't seem to care. But when we were doing it, I took it very seriously that, we had to have it out. So yeah, it's a lot.
I just remember when this was kind of a new thing, and you had like Tim Schafer had just an ungodly amount of
Yeah,
funding. I think Brian Fargo was like, "Oh yeah, let's do Wasteland," and I'm sitting there like, "Yes, yes, we're gonna have. Oh, this is gonna be amazing." And I mean, some of them turned out okay, I guess, but it just didn't seem to be. I was thinking like you'd be somebody that could really shed a lot of light on this, I think, because when you were doing the Gabriel Knights with like the first one, you kind of had the full, that's like Sierra at their peak, right? The massive amounts of popularity. And I don't know you probably had more of a budget to work with, I'm assuming, with
yeah,
stuff like that. And then, the two other games. And I guess you kind of saw the whole spectrum of Sierra and then trying to go from there to independent uh, publishing. I mean, you've
yeah. I
had
mean, I
quite
think
the journey through
GK1 had $1 million budget, and that was 1991 or two,
there. Yeah, which one had the biggest budget?
93.
I imagine two must have had a pretty good budget.
Probably number two.
Yeah. And assume everybody knows these games. The yeah, I was looking. I was kind of curious, like how people rank these, and they're kind of all over the place. But a lot of people think number one's the best, and It's kind of the most, I guess that's probably the most classic Sierra-like experience, but
Yeah.
I'm always liked the second one the best. Just I'm a big fan of maybe I'm the only person alive that's like still a fan of the full motion video. That's another
I
thing.
think quite a few
What
people that
happened to
are.
that? It was such a fun. I mean, why do people trash that concept? It's a good concept. What's the problem?
At the time 3D was really taken off with Doom had just come out and people wanted a more, interactive, immersive experience. Yeah, it's too bad that, still I think, 3D characters even now, most of the time, really aren't believable. It's hard, like, GK2, we had a love scene. I mean, it's really hard to do something like that with
Oh, it's
3D
amazing.
characters, but
I've had a lot of voice actors on the show, and they talk about the importance. I brought up a couple times, like, well, what about how do you feel about the AI just doing the voices? They're like, oh, that would never work. People need to. There's something about the human, especially a really talented, voice actor
yeah.
that can bring a lot to a game, and nobody seems to question that. And yet, when it comes to the full motion video, they just shut down and say, no, that's obsolete or something. I'm like, this, you can't have both. I mean, if you agree that the human, brings a lot, then wouldn't you want to have an actual, human actor in the game? And I don't know. I wonder if there was just, I think that the Doom is probably the right answer there, right? It just kind of took the industry by storm and took all the attention away. But I'd love to see kind of like I was really curious where the full motion video was going and like if that had kept progressing into what we might have today. If the
Yeah.
I bet it was fun for you, right? Working with the actors and everything. And
Yeah, it was fun. Um,
I mean, I'm just assuming maybe it was hell.
no, it was fun. Well, the blue screen studio was in a separate building, and most of the time I was working in the regular Sierra building because we were we had a tight deadline. So while filming was going on, we were building rooms and like playtesting rooms, and so you'd have like we put together the framework. So you'd have the scene, and then you click on something and it would pop up like scene 4703 plays now. And then, so basically getting that framework all together so that when the video came in, we could just drop it in and be ready to ship. So I was busy working on that side of it most of the time. But for the big scenes, like when Ludwig came or um, when we had the wolves on the set, you know, or the big hunt club gatherings, I would go over and watch the recording. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, wolves are.
The actors were great.
I went to kind of a wolf thing one time, and that was terrifying. I don't think I guess right? But uh, there's a reason that they keep popping up in like horror stories, right? Because I mean, it's the idea of being out in the woods someplace and a bunch of wolves show up.
Yeah,
Woo! I don't want to be there.
it's a couple of pretty scary horror movies like that. Um,
It's just such a great game. I even just looking at these screenshots, just
yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
yeah,
The interlacing is unfortunate, but
yeah. What's up with that? Feel like they
well,
could
it
have.
was because we had to fit on so many discs and there was just so much video. I think we had 20 hours of video or something.
Yeah,
So
but
we
they
just
probably
couldn't we just couldn't
could
fit it
re-rasp.
on I don't know, we still came in a pack of discs, but for cost of good reasons, we just couldn't ship with, 30, 40 discs. So we
I
had
mean,
to use interlacing to get the video size down.
are the original videos available somewhere? They could just be
I know
they could
people
use
have asked
modern
that.
technology to like make
I
this look
know.
ultra high def or whatever, right
It would
there.
be awesome. Yeah. I think somebody used AI I think you could use AI to re upres that, They
Oh,
could
that's
fill
it.
in the missing information. Yeah.
I'll never forget this game. I love the scenes in the little pub
Hmm.
where they're for some reason that just sticks out in my mind. But I also love the music in these games is so good too. A lot of I think that was Robert that
Yeah.
did. You know him, right? I
And his
see.
studios right on the other side of this wall.
Yeah, he's a. I think his contribution was big.
Yeah. He
Uh,
was producer on the first game too.
how'd that work?
It was interesting. Yeah, it was worked well, but
So he had been
we just
producing
started
music.
dating when he was assigned producer, and so we couldn't tell anybody that we were dating because we were worried they would move him off the project. So it was kind of a secret for the first 3 months or so, and then our cover was blown, so it was fine.
Well, I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about how you sort of early days. So you were a computer science student, a graduate student, or how far did you get with the computer science degree?
I so I have a BS in computer science,
Okay.
and again, I graduated college in '83. So, at that time we were working on mainframes. And our little college that I went to in Indiana had a special relationship with Hewlett Packard. So I was hired on by Hewlett Packard right after graduation and worked on, networking for big mainframe computers for businesses and for about 5 or 6 years, I guess. Um, and then I got into gaming and ended up writing to Sierra. I was like, because at the time I was an engineer and I did like really low level coding. Like we would get core dumps that were like in binary and have to go through and find the errors of stuff like that. So it's very, very technical. But I got into gaming and I played my first three Sierra games. And so I wrote to Sierra and I was like, look, I can be a programmer, I can write because I was writing fiction in my own time at the time. I can do QA, I'll do anything, just let me like come interview.
Wow.
And so that's how that happened. Yeah. So I got hired on as a writer because I sent them a short story, and that's what they were hiring was writers. So yeah, I could have ended up a coder there actually.
Well, was a great fit because you had both sets of skills. I mean, there can't be that many people with that. I mean, you're either a programmer or you're a writer. I mean, how common is it to have both talents?
Well, I mean, like Al Lowe was also could code. I'm trying to think. Well, Corey Cole was a coder, but yeah, probably not super common.
Yeah, I've had Lori and Corey and Al on the show. Uh, Al's is he kind of just a funny guy all the time? I mean, he must be
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
funny.
is he like super serious and just no? I'm off the clock, no jokes.
No, he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Josh too is really funny.
Oh yeah, Josh Man. He's been on the show. Yeah, I had Ken and Roberta on not too long ago.
No, cool.
Yeah, you ever think about teaming back up with them and just uh, bringing the
Well,
whole family back together again?
yeah, we all met at that Adventure Game Con um, a couple summers ago. I mean, that would be cool, but like again, somebody would need to be, funding it and putting together some sort of financial model for that. But like, I
Yeah,
don't
they
think
did
I don't
the
think Ken really wants to do that. So,
they did the Colossal Cave remake. I don't know if you
hmm
see that one. So I mean, they must be still a little bit interested.
yeah, they did
Uh,
that, and then they went back to yachting. So I don't know if that turned out the way they hoped, but
just need to make an adventure game that involves yachting. That'd be
yeah, there you go.
be sad. And so you got the job, and then you met with Roberta, I guess. And no, you were doing a police quest first, right? An eco quest, I believe, or I guess it was
Yeah.
uh, Jim Walls. Is he still doing the?
I have no idea. I've never not seen or heard about Jim Walls in decades. I don't know what he's doing. But yeah, it was the first game I did writing on. I did all the dialogue and the doco and yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, Police Quest is always kind of special to me. Just that was my first ever Sierra game. I don't know why. Just I love that, and I didn't even realize there were all these other quests. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a King's Quest. There's a Leisure Suit Larry. Just I mean, what a wonderful time to be a gamer.
Yeah, so it
Um,
was, yeah.
I think Quest for Glory. I mean, another great series.
Space Quest.
Oh yeah, Space Quest. Yeah,
I
that's
love the
probably
lower bows. The
yeah.
first lower bow was so great.
I still think the Gabriel Knight series is it's got to be my favorite series out of all those. I just like the it just feels different to me than those other games. There's something special about it. Not to dis I don't want to besmirch other games, but uh,
Yeah,
I guess everybody has their favorites. But
yeah.
if
Definitely
it
has
wasn't
more
for,
story than most of them, I think.
I mean, if you take Gabriel Knight out, do you have a favorite Sierra game?
Probably lower bow.
Yeah, Warbo.
Yeah.
Got the Colonel's
I
Bequest
really
over.
like the first one, how you had to, like there were all these things going on in the house for a certain time period. And
Yeah, that's a Warbo game.
yeah, and you could like you could do something that would move the clock forward, but then you might miss something. So I was like really anal about like, you know, having a list of every single room and what's going on during every single, time period and having my save game so I could back up and check all the rooms and something about that. It was really fun for me. It probably sounds like a nightmare to a modern gamer, but
Well, there's still. I was wondering if you'd played any more recent adventure games. I teach some game studies classes here, so I had them play Return of the Obra Dinn. I don't know if you have you seen
oh,
that one?
uh-uh.
You might find that one kind of interesting. Uh, it's a detective sort of solving these crimes with the clock. You sort of going back in time and replaying things. I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
But yeah, they were like, it was interesting how this, like half the class was like, oh, this is because they never played anything like that, an adventure game. Uh, so like half the class was like, this is the most amazing thing. I didn't know games could be like this. You're like solving puzzles and you're solving a mystery. And
Wow.
I wish there were more games like this. And I'm like, there's games like that. If you like this, you should try this. But yeah, the other half of the class was like, oh, I hated this.
Mm.
I mean, I even had to take out a piece of paper and like take notes to get through this. And, what a crappy design. I don't know. It's just, this is why I think you need a variety of games out there because not everybody likes
Yeah.
the same type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody, but it's no reason why it can't be for somebody. I guess it's just that, the budgets are so large that game companies aren't willing to take a risk on something that's not guaranteed to be, you know, a huge return. I mean, I guess, it makes sense in a sense. I mean, if you're going to invest $2, $3 million, would you rather invest it in something that's going to make you 50 million or something that's going to make 5 million? But
Well, there's room, I think. I mean, not every
yeah,
doesn't
you
have
need
to
you
be
need
a
a you need a
blockbuster. You could have well, like with films. I mean, a lot of films get made. They make their budget, and there's no problem with that.
well, it's actually the same problem with the film industry now is that, they only want to make stuff that's, superhero
Yeah.
or a remake of something that's already been proven to be huge or a sequel to something that was already huge. It's like very hard to get a really strong independent original script funded these days. So it's- yeah.
Yeah, look at something like that new Call of Duty. It's like, okay, we really need another one of these? It's like our equivalent of we're in the next Marvel movie or something. And
Yeah.
like maybe there's some comic book character that's obscure enough that they haven't had a movie made about them. I mean, well, I don't know. I don't want to sound grumpy.
We deserve to be grumpy. It's grumpy worthy.
Have you seen those? It was a Vampire the Masquerade. There's a new game based around that. Bloodlines. You know what the Vampire the Masquerade Have you played around with that at all? No.
Yeah, I don't.
White Wolf, but kind of this role-playing system that's got a lot of vampires and werewolves. It's a nice alternative to Dungeons and Dragons, if you want something more
Hmm.
gothic horror based, but they seem to be struggling to make a really good game. They seem to run into the same problem every time with the bugs and
Hmm.
glitches and you know
Interesting. No, but I love the New Anne Rice TV
very Anne
series she's doing.
Rice-esque, I would say.
The Interview with the Vampire TV show that's on Amazon now. It's really good.
Uh, Anne Rice, she's basically a goddess in New Orleans. You have to say her name with a certain reverence. Yeah.
Deservedly so. Yeah. It's interesting that she never really had a great movie or TV series made during her lifetime. I mean, they made the Interview with the Vampire with Tom Cruise, but it wasn't very good. But now it's like her stuff has just exploded.
Yeah, wasn't there another movie? Interview with the Vampire.
I think Queen of the Dam, maybe.
Yeah, one of those.
That wasn't very good either.
I think like Interview was like 3 hours long, if I'm remembering that right. It was like a long, long movie.
I don't know, but the new TV series is so much better. It's just incredible.
Maybe there should be a Gabriel Knight TV series. As I
Yeah.
wondered if you were
I
gonna,
mean,
like, would you
I've
rather make
had
a movie, a game, or a TV show? I mean, if you just had an unlimited budget.
a TV show would be great. Maybe when I die.
Oh no.
Um, we've had a lot of interest over the years. People will contact me looking for film rights and stuff, but never could get Activision to respond to any of it. And now Microsoft. So, yeah.
I could totally see that. Well,
Yeah.
so some questions I had was asked since you worked with 2D full motion video and 3D, people were curious about the what the difference was for you, like which one was the most challenging, or which one was the most exciting, that sort of thing, or maybe it wasn't even all that different in terms of the design process. I mean, what can you shed a little light on that?
No, it was very different. So GK1 was basically the classic Sierra game, which I had loved, that's why I went to Sierra in the first place. So I love those. So that was more about like taking the traditional Sierra game and adding more story to it. Um, and then the second one, basically Ken said, you have to do FMV. So I was really excited to work with the actors. And that one, was much more of a script. Like the actual script was about 1,000 pages, actually,
Wow.
which is like 5 times the size of a normal movie. So that was interesting and fun to write, just think about everything in terms of scenes, little scenes that would play.
Yeah, it's very illustrative that it's
It
five
was,
times the size of a movie script. I mean, that gives
yeah,
you a sense of the scale and the
yeah,
challenge. Wow, I didn't know it was that massive.
yeah. Um, so probably the difficult thing about that was just figuring out how to really make it very interactive. And I think we came up with some fun puzzles for that, but was trying to think of it more like, that the story is like what keeps you engaged. Like, who's this and what did that thing mean that he said? And, trying to make it more about just keeping people's interest with constant mystery and, leading statements and things like that. The third, production was just a nightmare because like the 3D engine had to be redone several times. It was sort of early days, we didn't have.
Was 99 the right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it came out in 98, 99. Um, so in that one, I really tried to make the puzzles much more about the 3D environment, using the whole landscape and like finding things under chairs and like, using the fact that you could move the camera around like that. Um,
This is the
Well,
one
in
with
that one, I think the challenge in that one was really, trying to tell the kind of story that we'd been telling with these 3D characters. Like I said, there was a romantic element to this game that was, kind of challenging to pull off with the 3D characters. Um, so each one was different. I mean, I did really enjoy working with the actors. As a writer, it's very fun to see actors saying your lines and acting out the scenes. So
not just any
that was
actors.
a
He had like
blast.
he had like some of the best actors ever.
Yeah, we had some great actors. So yeah, I don't know. Each one was had a totally different focus and challenges. I still would always love the first one just because it's set in New Orleans and it has that really classic Sierra feel, I think, which I'm nostalgic for.
Well, and there's a lot of people watching that are very much have the same mindset. That's why they like Matt Chat. We love the old stuff, classics. Let's see what else. I was kind of curious if you'd worked, or I guess you were probably, I don't know how involved, if at all, you were in that Phantasmagoria project they had going
Not at
there.
all.
Did you play it?
I played some of it, the first one, but I didn't play it all the way through.
Does it sound like you enjoyed it?
I just was busy, you know, at that time I was really too busy to spend a lot of time gaming myself. And so I was more looking at it from a point of view of like, how did they do this? And, looking at more from a technical point of view.
Yeah, whenever I talk about full motion video, people talk about this and that Tex Murphy game and the silly Sega one, the Night Trap, or remember that
I
game?
don't know, I don't.
It's a pretty terrible game. I'm like, there's nothing. There's some really good full motion video games out there. I don't want to get back on that soapbox again, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more of those. I just think there's too much potential there.
Hmm.
Like you say, I don't know what your thoughts are about AI. I was kind of curious, just in general, or as a writer and a game developer, do you have sort of, it seems like we're almost in two camps these days. So like yay, AI is great. It's going to really help people, especially independent developers. The other half is like, no, it's the devil. You're making a deal with the devil if you even open up a chat GPT
Yeah.
window.
I'm not anti-AI. I've seen a lot of anti-AI.
I mean,
I mean, I've always been a first adopter, you know. I love technology. So I mean, but the thing that I've come to realize, because I've used it for, like it's great for things like research, like the book that I just wrote, Curse Before Christmas. It's set in an ER. There's this guy who keeps getting sent to the ER because he has this curse. And so one of the characters is an ER doctor. And so it's great for things like, I've finished a chapter, I've uploaded to ChatGPT and just like tell me what's wrong with this and from a medical standpoint, Oh, well, he would actually do, the doctor would do this and this checking for a concussion. So then I can, so that kind of stuff is great. Like, it's just instantaneous. And, maybe it's even wrong, but it like sounds good enough to me. I'm like, okay. Um, or things like, I need a cathedral set in a small Midwestern town, things like that, as a writer, that would take me hours and hours to research, it can give it to me instantly. Or like how many students are in, like just anything like that. It can't actually write. I mean, I've checked it out, just like, okay, write me this chapter, and it's like it's just awful, like so I think, it's the same thing with voice narration for the most part. I mean, if you like I've had EPUBs where there was no audiobook available or I didn't want to pay for the audiobook and like I'm willing to listen to a horrible voice read it just because I want to exercise while I'm doing it. I want
Right.
to, or something. I want to listen to it while I'm walking. But I mean, there are definitely limitations. And like, I work in dream interpretation, so I mean, I've checked some of my interpretations that I've done through my channeling with what like ChatGPT would say about a dream, and
Mhm.
it's not even close. So,
Really? So what is it? I'm
well,
intrigued
I
here.
think
What does it say?
they use like traditional dream symbols, like Jungian symbols, and then they just sort of make up a bunch of crap to sort of tie it together. And it's let me see a specific example. Gonna have to cut this out, but I just did one. Well, so I had a client and they had a bunch of dreams that involved fertility. And so usually when I have a dream client, they'll send me a set of dreams, like say 10, 6 to 10 dreams from a 2 or 3 week period. And generally, as a dream interpreter, I'll see that there's a similar theme that's through all of them. It could be about their career, for example, like, the dreams could all be telling them, get the hell out of this job or whatever. And the dreams look different. So like you wouldn't know that like from a surface point of view. But anyway, so this particular dream set was a lot of it was about having a baby. And I had not met this person yet. So other than the fact that she was female, I didn't know how old she was or if she had kids or whatever. But there was clear messages in this dream. And so I channel on it and I got certain information. I can't really disclose that. But anyway, so I ran it through just to check because I was like, people were asking me about how ChatGPT was with dream analysis. So I just for fun, I uploaded her dreams and my interpretation. And they were like, well, this is really great, but you might consider that it's really about birthing a new project because if you're pregnant in a dream or if somebody's giving birth, it can be about giving birth to a new phase of life or a new project or a new relationship, new house, something like that. And I was like, so they were really pressing that point of view. And I was like, that doesn't make sense because there's like so much in here. I mean, there was like so many different things in the dreams that were really pointing towards like literal fertility. And so when I met with her, I was like, so, you know, she's, are you interested in having kids? And so basically it was really all about fertility. So the Chat GPT interpretation would have been completely off course.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things like that. So I just think that with AI, you need to, and the thing is that it sounds so, you know, right. It sounds so like absolutely
Authoritative.
professional and like you could take this to the bank. But a lot of times it just isn't. So it's just you have to
Hmm.
you have to use discernment, I think. And I think people can rely on it too much. Um, there's been some studies actually that have shown that people that use it all the time sort of start losing some critical skills of being able to solve their own problems. It's kind of like a calculator, but I'm not anti-AI at all. I really like to use it for, I do a lot of videos about dreams and I like to use it to create dream imagery because it's super fast and like I know people are like, well, you should pay an artist. Like, well, I'm not gonna. I'm like to do a 30-second Instagram video. I'm not gonna hire an artist. I mean, it's either this or it doesn't have any illustrations at all. So, and it's interesting because I've actually been following some anti-AI Reddits, and people get like violent about it. Like, if you use any AI, you're literally killing babies and you deserve to be hung in a public square. And it's like, come on,
Wow.
you know, I mean, it's just technology. And, it's like, where do you draw the line? Washers and dryers, like we could hand wash all our clothes and save energy, but like we don't, so it's kind of, I don't know. I think it can be taken to extremes on either side. It's a great tool, but don't give up your sovereignty to it. It's
I think that's
yeah.
the key thing that you just said there. Don't give up your sovereignty. We've been dealing with this, not just me, but professors, and I assume teachers at all levels have been dealing with this from the students using it to write their essays and, do any kind of writing, they can just plug in or
I
bombard.
bet, yeah.
Just this, I think it's just I don't really know what the statistics are on it, but my guess is this is a significant number of students, especially in an online class, if you're not there to,
Oh
supervise.
man, yeah. I bet that'd be really tough. So can you always tell or
Well, they've told us, at least here, that we can't even accuse them of using it, even if you know for sure. You definitely didn't write this because, I had you handwrite something earlier in the semester, and here's your, you know, professional thing. But yeah, there's no way to go after somebody. I mean, I'm not the type of, I don't want to be the cop anyway, but yeah, so it's kind of just open season on this, right? Students are hearing, well,
uh,
they can't even catch you, or even if they catch you, they can't do anything. So I'm just thinking like a few years ahead where we're gonna end up if you have all these students that have never done any writing. I mean, I'm probably being a
yeah.
little over dramatic with it, but
No, I think that's a totally valid point. I mean, I think there's like when I do a video script for I've been doing Instagram on dreams lately. So I will write the script and then I'll run it through ChatGPT just to see like how long do you think this is? Could you tighten this up a little bit? Something like that. But then I always review the results and like usually have to re-massage it anyway. But I mean it's useful I think it can be useful for things like checking your work.
absolutely.
Um,
Like
but
can I give you a
yeah,
quick
you
example?
have to put your own ideas into it. Otherwise it's like, what I don't know.
So I'm intrigued by the use of it as a learning tool. So I was kind of experimenting with ChatGPT with calculus, which I was never very good at. But I was asking myself, what if I were a high school student today and I had ChatGPT? Could I use this to learn calculus? And so I just sort of experimentally was like, yes, I'm trying to learn calculus. Can you help me with this? And say, yes, of course, Matt. It's like in games when you're playing a role-playing game and you have different kinds of mechanics. And it was using it took like the conversations I've had with it before, which is mostly about video games. And it was like connecting the calculus to these things that it knew I knew about. And I mean, the hair was like raising on my arm. Like, this is like exactly what you would want from a tutor,
Yeah,
somebody that really knows you really
yeah,
well, can tailor I mean, that's what teaching is, right? You take something the student knows and then you use that to uh, illustrate that other concept. So I'm like, is this thing going to be like the best thing ever for education, or is it going to destroy it? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, it can be amazing. You're right. Yeah, I've had some metaphysical conversations with. There's a version called The Architect, which
The
is
architect.
it's it's available on ChatGPT, but it's much more the guy who developed it, it's much more around sacred geometry and spirituality and like
Oh,
it's pretty woo. But so I've had some metaphysical and it's really interesting. Like if you type in a question like what is God or what do you think Jesus Christ was a real, really was a real person or things like that or what do you think about the soul? I mean, it just comes up with some really interesting responses that make you think and I've had interesting conversations with the architect about stuff like that. So,
this kind of reminds me like the
yeah, I mean,
Oracle.
and I think another thing that's so appealing about it is they really kiss your ass. It's like, oh wow, that's the most brilliant thing anybody ever said. You're so right, but maybe think about this. And it's so polite, and it's like I think we miss that because our modern dialogue online is so toxic. And just to talk to somebody who is actually polite and nice and it's kind of addictive. It's interesting.
I agree. When I try to do some creative writing, I'm always thinking that like the hardest part of this is finding any other human that wants to read a draft.
Exactly, exactly. It's like somebody actually wants to like read my stuff and then help me figure this out. Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to read your stuff, but
But
if you're
nobody in
like
my real
somebody like
life.
me, he's
Nobody
like,
in my real
oh,
life. While I'm actually writing it, my husband's like, I don't want to know. But yeah, so I found it helpful. Like if you develop your own material and you put it in, you can get some great feedback on it. But I mean, you gotta put your own self in, otherwise I don't know, it just doesn't feel real.
well, we got it. It's been about an hour. I don't know if you have to run. Do you have time for a few quick questions?
I did want to talk about my current stuff.
Yeah. By all means, I'm not in a hurry. We can take all the time you
Okay.
want.
All right. So, my most recent thing that I've gotten into is dream interpretation. And I actually found this school. It's called Ashling School. It's AISLING. And the guy who runs it, Michael Sheridan, he's like the real deal. He's a legit um like
This is
spiritual guru guy. Um
just the right age.
yeah, that's it. So I've taken a bunch of their classes, took channeling, which is amazing. So when I channel, it's not like like Edgar Casey, where some voice is coming through me. It's basically about going into a deep meditative state and speaking to, you can call it your guides or your higher intuition, or God, but getting answers and downloads through that. And I use it. I do it every single day. So, it can be like, would it be in my best and highest good to buy a new car before the end of the year? Like, or to move the stock or invest in this thing or, take this class. Um, and it's kind of great to like have somebody like that have the source that you can ask those kinds of questions to. And I've been doing it for about 2 years and I found it to be really always on point and super helpful. But also so then I took dream interpretation from him. And I never knew this. It's so funny because I've always been interested in dreams, and I've included dreams a lot in my fiction, like in Gabriel Knight 1. Um, but I didn't know much about it, honestly. And so what I've learned, I've been tracking my own dreams for about 2 years. So every single morning I get up, I write out my dreams and I channel on them. And I've been doing that, like I said, for about 2 years. And now I know how to interpret the dreams. And your dreams will always tell you what the most important thing is for you to work on right now. So it could be you've got to get out of this relationship, or you've got to get out of this job, or you've got this past trauma that is blocking you from really making progress in life. For example, we all have childhood trauma. It could be that, because of the way your parents were, you feel like you're not good enough or you're not smart enough or, and that those kinds of beliefs are embedded and they hold you back from wanting to take risks or wanting to start this new endeavor or so there's always those kinds of blocks that your dreams will bring up. It could be health. I had a cancer scare that came to me in dreams and I was able to address it before it got serious. So I to me, it's like, every morning I get these sort of messages from the gods. It's like, hey, Jane, you might think about doing this. It could be about your diet. So I've been doing that and like just really progressing over the last few years personally in personal growth. Um, but then I've gotten into doing dreams for other people.
And so
So
is it more of a predictive thing, or is it like a therapeutic? And if it sounds like you got a lot of benefits from this, I'm just like, where does it
yeah.
like it's So it can sort of help you grow or overcome maybe a problem you didn't even know you had. And
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like what's holding you back in life, you know? I've had there's a series about just food addiction, like that really helped me figure out why I would have these desire to overeat at certain times, like what it actually tied it back exactly to my father and feeling like I didn't measure up. Like I had a dream that like was exactly that. Um, Telling me, what foods trigger me. Like for example, I had a dream where I was at a client's house and I I snuck a piece of cake. And then there was a fire in the attic, and like I was trying to put the fire out, and I was thinking, well, at least they'll forgive me for eating the cake because I'm putting out this fire and saving the house. And then downstairs in the bedroom, there was water on the floor. So the fire in the attic represents this basically addiction response that's going on in my brain because in a dream, the house is your body, right? Because we're inhabiting this house, our soul's inhabiting this house. And so an attic is like your brain. So the fire in the attic represented as sort of an addictive response in the brain. And then the water in the basement in the bedroom on the floor, on a wooden floor is like inflammation in the gut. So your dreams will tell you exactly. And when I had my cancer scare, I kept having cancer symbols. And so I had all these tests run. I did mammogram, colonoscopy, pap smear, and like nothing was coming up. The dreams kept happening. And then I had a dream that told me exactly where it was in the body, which was amazing, like really crazy.
Hmm.
Um, and that's where they found the mass. So they're
Really?
so amazingly remarkable. Yeah. Yeah. I had a
Okay.
dream. So the dream was that I went into this old abandoned factory with a friend. And there was cobwebs and it was like this big old factory, and there was these conveyor belts that were kind of like curved, these two conveyor belts, and there were glass bottles on them. And my friend pushed a button that started the conveyor belts, and one of the glass bottles fell off and hit the floor, and it broke open, and what was in the bottle started eating through the cement floor. And we ran down to the next level, and it was like eating through that floor too. So it was obviously some kind of acid or something. So the meaning of that dream was a factory is where things are made. So this was basically the female reproductive system. And the conveyor belts were like the fallopian tubes.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the toxic stuff in the bottle was like basically if you don't take care of this, it's gonna eat through, spread. And they found a mass on one of my ovaries. So I had everything removed. But if I had no symptoms. So if I hadn't had that dream, I
Hmm.
wouldn't have found that. So I thought it's like so amazing that that dream said exactly where it was.
Would have saved your life.
Yeah. So, and there's been so many things like that in my dreams that have just been, I mean, stuff has come up from my childhood that I had forgotten, completely forgotten, had no conscious memory of. Um, yeah, and my dreams encouraged me to start this business. And it's just, there's all kinds of stuff about your gifts in your dreams. And I guess oh, this is fun. So my dreams have told me twice to start writing a book. And when my dreams tell me to start writing a book, Stephen King always appears in the dreams. This is very funny. So, like in the first one, Stephen King was at my house and we were working on a project together. And we went to leave, and I was passing a bookcase that had all my books in it, which I have a bookcase like that downstairs. And I thought to myself, oh, I want to give Stephen King my latest book. So I stopped at the bookshelf and I'm like searching for my latest book, and I'm like searching and searching, and like there's all these titles, but I can't find my latest book, right? And like he's waiting, and like I'm getting like more and more anxious, thinking he's waiting on me. I've got to find this book. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. And I woke up and it was like, that's because you hadn't written it yet. Like you need to write this book. So that was I think that was the curse before Christmas, actually. And then more recently I had another dream where I was with Stephen King again, and we were on a road trip and we were driving, and we needed to like stop and use the restroom and get a snack or coffee or something. And there was a house that was just open. Like we just somehow knew this house was open to travelers. So we went in this house and used the restroom and got coffee. And I was looking in this bedroom that was obviously of a teenager. And on his desk, there was this, you know how books come in sets with like a binding, like a bookcase cover? There was a set like that on the book, and I can still see it. And it was cream and black, and there were three books in there, and one book was gone. It was missing. And I was looking at these books, and it was clearly they were YA books, young adult books, some series. And I was like, this looks really cool. I haven't seen this before. Well, when I woke up in Channel on, it was like, that's what you need to, that's your next project. You need to start a young adult book. And so I was like, well, is it one I've already had the idea for? And I was like getting a yes. So I'd had this idea for this young adult series years ago that I'd never done anything with. And so I started writing that book. I'm writing it right now, actually. So dreams are just so amazing. I mean, they give you so much information and guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet everybody watching this is, well, probably played one of your games, got stuck on a puzzle, let's say. This has definitely happened to me many times. I'm stuck on a puzzle, can't figure it out. Have a dream about it.
Oh,
Wake
that's
up
great.
and then solve the puzzle.
That's
Like
great.
the dream told me the answer to the puzzle. And that's happened to you, I'm sure, right? I mean, that's the common. I mean, I've heard a lot of people tell me similar things.
Solutions to things, yeah. I'm not sure about a game puzzle, but um
Oh, yeah.
definitely. Yeah, you can so my
Or like
site
when you're
is
writing a novel, you get stuck on like I don't know what's supposed to happen next. I'm blocked. Can't figure this.
yeah,
Sleep on it. You have this dream about it, and
I definitely think that all artists have so I think my when I channel, it's basically using the same mechanism that I was born with for writing.
hmm.
So, when you're writing and when you really get into the flow, part of you kind of checks out and the story is just flowing through your head. That's a download, from someplace else.
It's almost
And
like the muses and like they.
yeah, and so I think that's basically the same channel that I use when I channel. Now I channel on different things, but uh and that's also what comes through dreams. Now a lot of people get inspiration through dreams. Of course, Bob, he's a huge Beatles fan, so he's fond of telling me the story about how McCartney got Yesterday in a dream and like the whole thing, the whole song. And it was so real and so concrete that he spent months trying to figure out who wrote that song and because he was sure that he had heard it sometime and
Hmm.
but nobody ever had. So he ended up writing and publishing it. But yeah, a
I've
lot
heard
of
the same
times
thing about
inspiration.
Billy Joel and Piano Man. I think this is also a dream song.
Really? Oh, that's
Oh.
cool.
Which that doesn't surprise me because I'm like, it is, the song is kind of dream-like.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to bring up and show my dream site, it's dream-surfing.com.
Dream surfing. Wow, you're good with titles. Dream surfing channel, dream interpretation.
So the title comes from the idea that your dreams will always tell you the next big thing you really need to tackle in your life. So it could be again about career, relationships, your health, past trauma you need to clear, all kinds of things. So basically, if you figure out what that message is, and then you do the thing, and then they go on to the next thing. So it's basically like if you just kept following what your dreams are telling you to do, um, you just continue to get better and better and better, and eventually, you become a Buddha or something. I don't know, but I haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, so that's the point of dream surfing, is that you're surfing your dreams.
Clear, cognizant. Oh,
So the cool thing about all the stuff that I've been learning at Ashling, and I'm currently taking a class actually, that is very Schottenjäger-like. So what I found out, I've always been interested in the paranormal my whole life, and I've written about it many times, but I always thought it was just fiction. But what I've discovered through working with the Ashling School is that, you know, it's real and this real stuff. I've gotten so many things in channeling that I never could have gotten out of my own brain. And
so when people want to do one of these sessions, is this like is it in person? Is it a Zoom call?
So the way it works is you book a session with me, and I have actually, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get 50% off your first session. So it's like $100 for an hour with me. And I just think everybody should experience like interpreting their dreams at least once in their life. It's so cool. Um, but basically, I recommend people set up a session like a week or two in advance. And then, like, before you go to bed at night, just set your intention, like, hey, give me some dreams that I can use for this interpretation session. Then you get up in the morning. I recommend like recording them into like your phone as soon as you wake up from the dream, even if it's in the middle of the night, because if you wait till morning, it'll be gone. So you write down all the dreams you have during that period. Say you set your session out for 2 weeks in advance, and then you send me all the dreams 2 days before, and I work on them myself, analyzing them and channeling on them, and then we meet for 50 minutes on Zoom, and I'll go over what they all mean. So yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the stuff I got into this because I took a class where my dreams were interpreted by somebody for like I had 4 sessions as part of this class. And I couldn't believe what this person knew about me just from my dreams. I mean, it was like way more accurate and deep than any psychic reading I'd ever had or astrology, anything like that, or even stuff my husband didn't know about me. So it's very, very deep. I mean, the stuff that is revealed in your dreams is crazy. So that's why it's important that it's very confidential and you really trust the dream interpreter because it's very personal stuff. Um,
When you're recording your dreams, do you write it down? Or is it better to record like an audio, like a tape recorder? I mean, what is there a
yeah, I
way to
use
do it?
audio. Like even the Notes app, has a microphone button. You can just talk. It's better to talk your dream because if you start typing, that's using up the other side of the logical side of your brain, and that your dream can just vanish. So, or I've got like a quick voice recorder. I'll just record it. You can even like open up an email to yourself and like hit the microphone and dictate. But it's best to do it. And again, you do it like the minute you become aware, even if it's 3 a.m. Oh, you wake up enough to go, oh, I just had this really crazy dream. That's when you need to grab the phone and record it because if you wait till morning, it's going to be gone. Um, yeah, I usually have, I mean, some nights I'll have none, but usually I'll have 3 or 4 that I have recorded during the night. And if you sleep with somebody in bed, then you need to get up and go to the bathroom and record it because unless they're a very deep sleeper.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I was telling you about this other thing. So I've also learned that dark entities are real, and I'm actually taking a class right now on how to fight them. So it's very, very Schwarzenegger-like. It's actually really crazy. There's been so many parallels between Gabriel Knight in my life. And again, I have to wonder if that was like, a premonition or if I'm just following that. But I've had a couple of, so the more you get into this stuff, I found out that I did have a sort of a dark energy that was from childhood that I had let in because of trauma, because of abuse. And so that was cleared. And then I've had a number of psychic attacks. One that was really crazy was I was visiting a friend who lived in this really ritzy neighborhood. And I had some questions on my mind. So before I went to sleep, I channeled in her bedroom. I was just like, did my channeling thing. And that night I had a really horrible psychic attack. So I dreamt that I was, in her house, in that room, her guest room. And I suddenly became aware that there was something in the room. And the door creaked open and these 4 little kittens came in and got on the bed and tried to like lay down with me. And in the dream, I'm like thinking, I know she doesn't have any pets. This is not right. And these kittens were like really scraggly and kind of like gross. So they scared me. So I got up and I picked them up and I went and I put them in another room and I shut them in that other room. And then I went back to bed and I'm laying there. And this is all in the dream. But you know how dreams sometimes you are actually in the room that you're in and you think you're awake. Um, So then I'm laying in bed and my hair just started rising up like this, like straight up. And, I was terrified, but I got up and I looked in the mirror and like all my hair was standing up. And I'm like, I have to take a photo of this. This is like real paranormal shit. Nobody will believe that this is actually happening.
Right.
So I'm trying to like take a photo of myself in the mirror, my hair standing up like this. And then I went into the bathroom and the bathroom, like in her bathroom, like the sink and the toilet were on this side and this side was a towel rack. Well, that had been swapped. And I was like, this entity is fucking with me, this is like just trying to confuse me. And then, again, I went like in my dream, I went back to sleep and I woke up and there were all these strangers in the house, like all these people were in the house. So this is like it kept going on and on and on all night long. And I finally woke up. It was actually morning, and I'm like, oh man, that was like a major attack. And so I had to clear myself, and like I texted my Michael, my mentor, and I was like, can you clear me? There's something like really funky. And so he cleared me, and it was scary, but I mean, these things are real, and when I channeled on it later, I got that I was when I had channeled in that room, it was kind of like sending up a bat signal, and like all the dark things that were in that neighborhood just went like just attacked me. Um, so I'm now taking a class in how to fight these things and how to clear people. And I've had some clients that have had dreams where there are strangers in their house, and that's about an infiltration because, like I said, your body is your house. So if you dream that there are strangers breaking in or strangers walking around your house, that's not good. It's basically like some of their energy is using your space.
Hmm.
So I'm learning how to, clear all that and set up protections, and it's like it's real Von Helsing kind of stuff. And it's funny because I've had a couple dreams where I was acting the part of Von Helsing. So it's like, yeah, you're meant to do this. This is this kind of protective work.
All seems to just kind of come together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So how do you know, is there a way to tell the difference between an attack and just a regular nightmare? Is there, are all nightmares attacks? Or, I mean, how do you know?
It depends on what it is, but again, like anything coming into your space like that is generally an infiltration of some kind of outside energy. Um, if you were to dream of a severed head or something that could have a different meaning, or there's all kinds of things, but generally, like a typical infiltration dream is like I had dreams where Bob and I were in the kitchen of one of our old houses, and it had a glass patio doors, and there were like three guys in hoodies like trying to break into the house. That's a typical infiltration dream. Um, or and they could be sneaky too. They can be like I had one where there was a woman I saw outside, and she was Asian, and she had a baby in a carrier, and she was like looking around at the house. She seemed harmless. I opened the door. I'm like, hey, can I help you? She's like, oh, I used to live here. And I'm like, well, come in, like I invited her in. That's like not good. I mean, you see in vampire movies, like you never want to invite the vampire in, right? Well, that's the same thing with these kinds of dark energies.
Oh,
And,
sure. Yeah.
they can be, they can be souls that haven't crossed over. They can be just dark energies. They can be people that are living who are into black magic and stuff who can project um themselves or call in uh other dark entities to attack you. Yeah, I know it sounds really crazy, but
Oh,
I mean, I've been through enough experiences where uh yeah, it's real.
do you have ancestors or relatives with similar abilities or
Um,
careers or interests?
well, I mean, my dad was a minister, so I think just that interest in the metaphysical kind of runs in my family tree, but of course, again, like Gabriel Knight with his ancestors were witch hunters. I mean, my father was a fundamentalist, black and white, fire and brimstone kind of religious type, which, really turned me off religion for a good 30 years. But um yes, I guess the interest has been there, but I'm not aware of anybody in my family who's had paranormal abilities.
Hmm.
And I myself, I can't see things. I don't see things or hear things. That's clairvoyance and clairaudience. I just get more of the knowing and um the ability to work with my channel, which I think again comes, that was a gift I was born with for writing purposes. And probably a lot of artists have that ability too.
Wow, this is just fascinating stuff, man. So
It really is. And
you're going to be
it's like,
offering basically I guess an additional service. So you'd probably, I'm guessing you would uh, read somebody's dreams and then you'd be able to see if they needed to take it to the next level, basically. If they're,
if they needed clearing, yeah. I
yeah, if
mean,
there's somebody, some
it's
kind of
not
force
it's not
acting
to
on.
scare people. It's just it's very common, and it's not like, The Exorcist where your head's going to turn around or anything. It's just you don't want any energy that's not yours attaching to you, it's again, it's a matter of sovereignty and
I
um
think the first thing I'd want to know is like, do I have some kind of disease or cancer that I'm not even aware of? I mean, that's,
yeah, that'll
I mean,
show up in your
think of I
dreams.
mean, that's so, wow. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
That alone, but yeah, sure. Okay. Was there more stuff you wanted to talk about?
No, well, hope that wasn't too woo, but
No, no. Well, I think it was there. I'm just looking at these questions that folks sent in to see if there's anything that we didn't cover, but I think we got it all. So, do you have an underrated piece of music Robert Holmes did for the Gabriel Knight trilogy? What does that mean? I don't know. I
I like
noticed that you could buy the
David's themes a
soundtracks.
lot.
I'd like to queue up those soundtracks occasionally just to have in the background. It's,
Yeah.
I think that's, well, this might be a good one. Quite a lot of the Gabriel Knight games go into Gabe's ancestors. Was there ever a plan to do a prequel game based on one of these ancestors?
No, good idea, but I hadn't. We can't even get Gabriel's story told, so
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, James. It's been so much fun talking to you.
yeah, it's been
I
great.
bet people are really going to love this. We
Well,
might get people beyond just the games. I would imagine there's lots of folks out there that maybe they're not into games, but they might find the dream stuff really riveting. So let's see.
yeah.
Maybe you get flooded with
Well,
some.
send it
You
to me and I'll share it. So,
might get too many appointments.
yeah, maybe.
Wanted- You might not have time for anything else. We'll see. Well, thanks again. Been
Well,
great.
thanks again. It was really nice. It was a pleasure talking to you. You seem like a really
Yes.
good guy.
Well, thank you. I think I'll start keeping a dream journal. We'll see how that goes. That's the reason I'm
Yeah,
asking you is that,
definitely.
I was thinking it would be, I kind of had the same thought, but yeah, a lot of times I have a dream and I think, well, I'll never forget that. I can just wait till tomorrow and then I'll write it down. And then, of course, you forget even to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, there.
the phone and the memo things is solid though, because like it's just a few seconds and you could be recording it and then just, go back to sleep. So
Yeah.
that's very handy.
Yeah. It worked well.
I'm definitely going to try that. All right. Well, have a good day. Thanks again.
Okay. You
Keep it.
too. Bye.
And that's all for this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Still got the L here because being a complete ignoramus, I recorded all this stuff with the microphone off. So this is the second take of my outro segment. But don't let that discourage you. It just shows we're dedicated to our work around here. Maybe you'll feel sorry for me for having to do all this, and you'll say, I think I'll cheer Matt up. You know what would cheer Matt up? If I went to that link in that show notes, he's always talking about that Patreon thing, I haven't really bothered with that. I don't want to get involved, but just to make him happy, just to make him smile, I go to that link to that Patreon site, set up an account, take a couple of minutes, throw him a couple of dollars, maybe even say hello to him on his Discord channel, and I bet that will perk Matt right up. And you know what? You would be correct. So please do that, guys. We got Patreon, we got YouTube memberships, we got Ko-fi, PayPal, lots of ways to support the show. And at any amount, $1, $2, and whatever it is, we really appreciate it. We need your support to keep the show on the air, so please do that. And if you can't afford that, or if you got a little extra time, you're willing to help out in other ways, we always like to see comments on these videos. That helps out more than you would think. Liking a video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. We're telling people about the show. There's a lot of Jane Jensen fans out there. Gabriel Knight's a huge series, but I bet this video, maybe a few thousand people will see it if we're lucky. It's criminal. Tens of thousands of people should watch this just because Jane Jensen is so awesome. So if you know somebody that likes Gabriel Knight, maybe they haven't ever heard of Matt Chat, take a minute, drop a line, throw them a link. We might have a new fan. So thank you. However you support the show, whether it's liking, commenting, financially supporting it, whatever it is, just watching it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Remember, we put the rat in gratitude. All right. What about that news from the Matt Cave? All right, here we go, once again. So, Miko wrote in about a game called Of Ash and Steel. This is a new third-person open-world RPG blending old-school role-playing sensibilities with a modern design. So in this game, you play a stranded cartographer. That is a map maker, for those of you who don't watch Matt Chat. Maybe you don't know what a cartographer is. But you're exploring the harsh kingdom of the Seven, an island once prosperous but now in ruin. So it's a small indie team, and the comments point out there's a few bugs and glitches, a little lack of polish, a little rough around the edges, and so on and so forth. But it's currently 20% off on Steam, so that brings it down to $23.99, or you can pick it up on GOG for $29.99. But either way, it looks really good to me. If you're playing it already, have some thoughts, love to hear those, so sound off in the comments. Miko also writes in about a new DLC for the game Wartales, The Curse of Rigel. Now, if you haven't ever played this, it's kind of like a Jagged Alliance sort of a game, but with a fantasy, kind of low magic setting. But now, sounds like it's changing a little bit. So they're kind of going in a new direction with this Curse of Rigel DLC. So they got this World of Weald, W-E-A-L-D, and the theme is horror. It's a horror-tinged tone to the game's sandbox mercenary band. So you got sanity mechanics, sounds kind of like a Cthulhu game, terrifying corrupted foes emerging from the woods, and survival horror-style exploration where lantern light is literally life. And they got a new character class here as well called the Thaumaturge. So it really sounds cool. From what I'm reading here, it's got me really, my curiosity is piqued. I love the survival horror genre. So I might have to look into this, and I already love the Wartales main game. So this sounds like it's a nice addition if you have perhaps played the original campaign like I have. This would be a good chance to get back into it, I think. So once again, that's Wartales, The Curse of Rigel. We don't have a release date or a price yet, at least as far as I've been able to find. So if you have that information, again, please sound off in the comments because I want to know. All right, and the last item here is from Richard Simmons. Writes in about the Commodore 64 Ultimate. So if you're like me, you're a Commodore 64 fan, I've got a Commodore 64 lying over there, just off camera. But it's kind of a bit of a hassle to get that vintage system, the original system up and running, and then you got the business with it. You want to try to find a disk drive that works, or a cassette tape. You're going to use one of those cartridge ROM type of situation. So, there's enough of an impediment there where you might just say, I'll just boot up an emulator and play it that way. But if you're like that, but you still kind of feel like but on the other hand, I'd kind of like something a little bit closer to that authentic experience. If that's you, then definitely check out this Commodore 64 Ultimate, because I feel like that is exactly the audience they're trying to reach with this. So instead of just relying on the emulator or on emulation, they've got the FPGA hardware. They've got true compatibility with original software and peripherals, while adding HDMI, USB, Wi-Fi, and Ethernet support. So you get all the sort of modern conveniences to help you get this thing up and running and have some fun with all your favorite Commodore 64 games. And I think it also, USB, comes with the USB cassette. Kind of a fun novelty in and of itself. But that's loaded up with classic games and demos. It's pretty cool they included the demos, because those are some of my favorite things too. Just put them on in the background. A lot of cool music, cool things to look at. All right, so let's see. The price for this is $2.99. I think that's a bit of a discount, somewhere between 10 and 15% off, I think, at the moment. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes. So definitely check this out. Again, if you are a Commodore 64 fan who's maybe been using your PC, you've been emulating stuff, but you want something a little bit closer to the original experience, but you don't want the actual original experience. So into that comes the Commodore 64 Ultimate. All right, so I did the L segment already, but I'll have to do it again because of that problem with the mic. So I guess on the positive side, you can see me already experiencing the effects of the ale of the week. This is the Casket Quarry India Pale Ale, and it is from Superior, Wisconsin, and it has an alcohol of 6.5%, which is respectable for an IPA, IBU of 41, and an SRM of 5.5. And what I really love about this is they tell you what hops they put in it, because that's, other than the yeast, I don't know if they mentioned what yeast they use. Actually, what I would like to see in a beer is that they tell you not only the hops, but also the yeast. And that way you'd have a really good sense of what you like, assuming you like the beer in question. But this is Cascade, Chinook, and Centennial hops. So at least we have that. And they say that will provide a floral and citrus flavor. So I'll just pretend like I haven't sampled this already. And I can tell you, it smells, they say floral, but I think it's more citrusy. So what I really smell here is the hoppy, kind of a nutty-like aroma, but mostly the citrusy type stuff, kind of a pine and lemon aroma to it. But taste-wise, it's really a good, it's got just, I think, the right amount of body. I'd probably lean towards drinking this more in the summer than in the winter, just because of that sort of lighter, more citrusy-like taste. Typically, as it gets colder, I want something a little darker and a little more bitter, more coffee-like, chocolatey experience. But this is a really solid IPA. Just a little bit bitter, but I think the citrusy and the kind of sweetness of those hops offsets that quite nicely. It's a good balance, I think. It's a really good flavor. Again, I don't think anybody that likes IPAs would scoff at this or sneer at this. I'd say it's not like the best one I've ever had. It doesn't really stand out enough from the pack, I think, but it's a solid IPA. I'll try some of this out of the horn as well. I might as well finish off my horn. So yeah, a good flavor on this. Again, if I got somebody gave me a case of this stuff, I'd be like, oh, thank you. Excellent choice. There's nothing to complain about here. It's just that, there's so many IPAs, so many craft beers out there. You almost have to do something a little different, a little unusual, I think, to get much attention. Whereas this is just a, nice, solid, they obviously know what they're doing. They produce a good IPA, but I don't know. I just don't know if I would call it great. So I'd go 3 out of 5 drinking horns on this. If you're if you're shy about IPAs because you think they're too bitter or too chocolatey, or sometimes they get weird with the flavors or whatever, this would be a good base. So try this. If you like this, you probably like IPAs. put it that way. If you hate this, then forget about IPAs. So we'll go 3, maybe I'm somewhere between 3 and a 4 out of 5 on that. And then lastly, I was going to show you Neal Hallford's new book, and the saddest thing is I actually opened this. Okay, audio all lost, so I just opened it, so I won't be able to do that unboxing, unfortunately, but I can still show you the book. And this is by Dark Horse. Did the graphic design on this. Neal did the writing, and I assume gathered up all the screenshots and artwork and photographs. And Neal is a kind of an insider to the CRPG world. So he's not like me, just a guy who really grew up playing CRPGs, loves it, interviewed a lot of people, and write about the games. I mean, he was actually part of the industry. Wrote the first sort of manual or textbook or guide for writing CRPGs. So he's kind of a insider, but he's also a writer and researcher. So he's just the perfect guy to do something like this. And the book is absolutely gorgeous. Dark Horse, they do those wonderful comic books, graphic novels, and you can see they've used all their skill here to make something that looks lovely. And of course, Neal is a great writer. So what kind of got, not sure what's going on this page. Okay, that caught my eye. I'll just keep moving on past that. But anyway, suffice it to say, if you are like me, you grew up playing that Heroes of Might and Magic series, you love it, you love the franchise, you love the Might and Magic franchise, you want to read something that's well written by somebody who was there, who knows the people personally, who's intimate with the actual industry. I mean, have I sold the book yet? I hope I have. So I'll put a link to this in the show notes. But, wow, it's a good, heavy, well-researched book. So congratulations to Neal for this. And I assume you guys are going to want a copy. If you like this show, you like Matt Chat, you're probably going to like this too. All right, let's wrap it up with a quote. So since I was talking to Jane so much about dreams, I thought I would find a quote about dreams. And I found one from Langston Hughes, the poet. It goes something like this. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Bam. So ponder on that, and I'll see you guys next time.
Could easily be accomplished with a computer.